Democratic Congress members are going scorched earth on the Trump regime on Capitol Hill, while MAGA Republican Congress members are being, well, MAGA sycophants. As you know, the MeidasTouch Network has launched a DC Bureau. Pablo Manríquez has joined the MeidasTouch Network, and he's there at the Capitol building every day to get the politicians to answer the questions that you want answered. He interviews both Democrats and Republicans, and he presses them on the critical questions of the day. One of the most important questions that we've been asking politicians is, what is your perspective on funding ICE? Because we think that that is a bright line. Any Democratic politician who wants to further fund ICE or fund ICE at all at this point, I don't think deserves our support or your support, but that's just my opinion. Tell me what you think. Let me show you what happens as Pablo Manríquez approaches different politicians. Here's what they say, and this is part of our new DC Bureau effort. By the way, make sure you hit subscribe to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. We are on our way to 6 million subscribers. And if you like the work of Pablo, head over to MeidasPlus.com and become a subscriber there as well. So Pablo Manríquez and others caught up with AOC, and AOC was asked, do you think that the president has committed impeachable offenses? Watch AOC's answer. Play this clip.
You mentioned Letitia James, or was James Comey as well. There was a lot of conversation about the president not informing Congress with that military operation in Venezuela. How do you think the caucus should approach something like impeachment? Because there have been some of your colleagues who have said that there have been impeachable acts and they would actually consider going down that road.
Yeah, I mean, I think, personally, I think the criminality of what we've been seeing from this administration is quite clear. To me, individually, the question is not, the hard part about impeachment is what in the litany of illegal actions have been taken do you actually draft articles on?
Do you think the president has committed impeachable offenses?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. It's starting from the very beginning with the seizure of funds that are mandated to go out. I think that line has been crossed, and the question is about the rest of the country.
Do you wish that the caucus would be more interested in talking about the I word and going down that path and maybe making some plans for if Democrats can take control of the House next year?
You know, I don't think that this is personal. Two things can be true at the same time. I think that accountability needs to be a core part of our governance, and I also personally don't run as purely on an anti-Trump. I've personally never run to represent my district on grounds of impeachment or not. I run for healthcare. My community wants to hear about raising the minimum wage, expanding unions, strengthening healthcare, and I think it's important that we have an affirmative, positive vision for the country. But that doesn't mean that we shy away from what needs to be done in terms of having accountability, make sure that this abuse of power never happens again.
And then Pablo Manríquez caught up with Lauren Boebert. Contrast what AOC said with Lauren Boebert. Play this clip.
Hey, Congresswoman, is the DOJ being weaponized against the Fed?
I think the Fed has been weaponizing itself against the American people. I call into question the Fed all the time, and we should get rid of it, abolish the Fed.
Next, AOC talks about how Donald Trump is attacking the Fed and how he has weaponized the DOJ to go after Jerome Powell. Play this clip.
What do you make of the DOJ weaponizing, or of Trump weaponizing the DOJ against the Fed?
I mean, this is where we're at. This is a very significant development in the corruption and the weaponization of the Department of Justice. We saw with James Comey, we saw with AG Letitia James, that this administration is more than willing to make up charges that later were then quickly dismissed, mind you. They were totally dismissed as being completely without grounds. So they are drafting up, and they started on political retribution, right? They were trying to punish James Comey, and they're trying to punish Letitia James for doing their jobs independent of political influence. And Because they went with that, and Republicans did not stand up when that happened, now they are escalating and moving from retribution into extortion and manipulation. What Jerome Powell is doing in standing up to Donald Trump is he is standing up for the independence of the Fed and, frankly, for the integrity of the U.S. economy. If you allow the Fed to then be manipulated by these kinds of weaponized influences, essentially the threat is lower interest rates or we'll put you in jail, or we'll threaten to put you in jail. That is textbook authoritarianism. That is textbook, it is textbook authoritarianism. And we cannot allow for a despot to do this. And so standing up to it, pausing it, I am looking forward to seeing what other individuals, whether it's in the private sector or the public sector, to stand up. But I am encouraged by what we're seeing there, as well as other Fed chairs also releasing their statements.
Here's what AOC has to say about J.D. Vance. Let's play this clip.
What are your thoughts about what J.D. Vance was saying last week about how Renee Good was a victim of her own ideology?
J.D. Vance believes fundamentally that what happened to Renee Good is acceptable and what should be okay in America every day. And so, as far as what a person like that believes, you have to start right there with the person that you're dealing with.
And here's what AOC says very clearly about ICE funding. Let's play this clip.
Government funding, we're about to run out of money. What should be the red lines when it comes to ICE funding? When it comes to DHS, should there be policy or reduction in funding? What should be the options?
I mean, in terms of which deadlines line up with which goals, that's a tactical decision to be made. But my position has always been clear that ICE funding should be cut. We're seeing what they're doing with this reckless explosion in funding, and mind you, just so everybody knows, I want everybody to understand the cuts to your health care are what's paying for this. All that extra money that everybody's paying right now in their premiums, all that extra money that you're paying, it is paid for it is all of that extra money that the government and the ACA subsidies that was given to nearly $1 trillion in healthcare was taken out and given to ICE. So understand how these dots connect. You get screwed over to pay a bunch of thugs in the street that are shooting mothers in the face. That is what this administration's doing. That's what the Republican Party did.
Then Pablo Manríquez speaks with MAGA Republican Congress member Troy Nehls, smoking his cigar. Play this clip.
Are you concerned at all that the DOJ is being weaponized against the Fed? You following the story?
We're following the story.
Yeah.
No, they're not being weaponized against the Fed. Jerome Powell needs to be investigated.
Manríquez then caught up with Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin from Wisconsin. Let's play it.
On appropriations, given what happened in Minneapolis and what's going on in Minneapolis, would you be open to, are there any red lines for you when it comes to ICE funding or increases to ICE funding?
Yeah, I have to ask my Republican colleagues who are obviously taking lead on these. Is this what they want to rubber stamp for residential neighborhoods and cities across this country? Thousands of masked armed agents coming into their communities. Very disturbing.
Do you want to change policy on this as well?
We're going to head up the elevator up there. That's obviously, I don't want to get in the weeds, but that's obviously an authorizing committee issue. But we're talking about appropriations, and I call my Republicans, do they want to rubber stamp this or what?
Would you support increases to ICE funding at this point?
No.
No? You said no? Okay, thank you.
Then Manríquez caught up with Senator Murphy from Connecticut. Let's play it.
On the Homeland Security Committee, would you be, at this point, is increases to ICE funding a red line for you guys?
Well, we're in negotiations right now. We don't have a bill because we don't have agreement.
It's obviously natural the Democrats would want to make sure that any money we spend in DHS is being spent lawfully, and right now that department is full of unlawful activity. So I'm not going to negotiate out loud.
Yeah.
I don't, But
Senator Murray says that she opposes any ICE funding increases.
Yeah, I mean, there's this would obviously be a very inopportune time to give an agency that is acting lawlessly a whole bunch more money. I mean, obviously, ICE has so much money, it has no idea what to do with it. The last, so obviously ICE is not suffering from a lack of money after reconciliation.
Do you think you've talked about policy writers, specific things, like, do you think that there's a possibility that there could be policy changes in the the Homeland Security bill when it comes to ICE?
I mean, I'm just not interested in funding an agency that is operating outside of the law and is making our communities less safe. So we're not going to write a comprehensive immigration enforcement reform bill in the appropriations bill, but in every bill there's language on how our money is spent, and I want to make sure that our money is spent lawfully. So yes, we're having conversations about how we can pass a bill, but a bill that makes sure that ICE is operating legally.
What about securing behavioral changes like no masks or body cameras? Is that more of a priority?
I mean, I'm just not going to speak to. We're like in the teeth of talk. So I'm not going to speak to individual policies right now. The only success that I have learned in negotiating many bipartisan bills is to not negotiate.
Here's what Senator Andy Kim told Manríquez. Let's play it.
What's your message to Americans who are worried that their energy bills are going to go up as a result of AI data centers?
Oh, look, energy costs are going up just writ large. This is something that we need to be able to tackle. We're just not producing enough energy as a country, and Trump's made it so much more difficult as he's been taking so many renewable energy projects off the grid and just holding us back. So, I mean, this is a broader issue, not just on AI data centers, but just the terrible path that Trump's leading us down.
Here's what Senator Warren told Manríquez. Let's play it.
Would you vote for any proposed ICE funding increases for ICE?
Not without more restrictions on ICE. This is an agency that is out of control. And if we don't get some restrictions in place, they're going to put more and more American citizens at risk.
We'll go to the back.
Senator, what did you discuss with President Trump?
Costs.
What are your thoughts about Jerome Powell and are you worried that this is politicized?
Yes. Trump is engaging in a pretext in order to try to seize control of the Federal Reserve.
Have you had a chance to speak with Chairman Trump at all?
No.
Republican Senator Susan Collins had the following to say to the MeidasTouch Network. Let's play it.
Is the DOJ being weaponized against the Fed?
I had a conversation with Chairman Powell last night, and
oh my God,
I have always known him to be a man of integrity. I have not yet reviewed the transcript that is at issue, which I intend to do. This may, however, be more about the maintaining the independence of the Federal Reserve, which I support.
Are you worried that this is Trump trying to politicize the lower interest rates and make the Fed bend to his will?
Well, I just said that this may be about the independence of the Fed.
More from Andy Kim right here.
Is the DOJ being weaponized against the Fed?
Well, look, I'm still processing what's happening, but we've already been seeing this president attacking the Fed left and right, trying to undermine the chairman's credibility. And it's not just the Fed, just undermining independent agencies very large and trying to assert total control of the presidential powers. And I just find that to be dangerous. I called out, the FCC chairman a couple weeks ago for, again, just showing his complete loyalty to Donald Trump and not doing what the law says that he should be doing. And so I'm very concerned about what comes next.
We caught up with Senator Bernie Sanders. Here's what he had to say.
Should ICE funding be a red line issue for Democrats?
I am very worried that ICE is becoming a domestic army for Donald Trump. And this goes way beyond the issue of immigration. It goes to the movement in this country toward authoritarianism and fear.
Next, we asked Senator Mark Kelly about the DOJ being weaponized against Powell. Play this clip.
Is the DOJ being weaponized against the Fed?
Against Jerome Powell as well? Do you see a similarity?
I see huge issues with what they are doing to him, and it seems to be a pattern.
Republican Senator Barrasso from Wyoming. Here's what he had to say. Let's play it.
Do you think that the Justice Department is being weaponized against the Fed?
Well, you know, I've always supported an independent Fed, and that's not changed, and we'll see what they have and what they present.
Are you concerned
about the independence of the Federal Reserve through this investigation?
We just talked about it, and he just asked the question. And long history of supporting the independence of the Fed, and we'll see what the Justice Department has to bring.
Do you think that this in any way erodes that?
Oh, we're going to see what the Justice Department has to say. I think it's a long history of support of independence of the Fed.
Here is what Senator Mark Kelly, Democrat, told us about his lawsuit against Pete Hegseth. Let's play it.
Tell me about your lawsuit against Mr. Hegseth, Secretary Hegseth, and why did you think it was so important to do this?
Well, it's so important because this is about the Constitution, and not only the Constitution, it's about the First Amendment, and also the separation of powers. And he doesn't have a right to infringe on my constitutional rights, but also the constitutional rights of hundreds of thousands of retired service members who are out there that possibly on the whim of this Secretary of Defense.
More from Andy Kim. Let's play it.
Senator, will you vote against any additional increases in funding for ICE? There's been an effort by Republicans to try and negotiate them into the appropriations and the minibuses we're hearing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I after what we've seen and what we've seen happen across this country, I don't see how we can continue to support, be able to support, and so I would be certainly interested in figuring out how we can be able to engage on that. But what I will say is with the Republican majorities in both the House and the Senate, they've been just enabling this type of lawlessness that we've been seeing across our country.
And finally, here's what Andy Kim says when Pablo asks him if he thinks that ICE funding should be a red line issue for Democrats. Play this clip.
Do you think that ICE funding should be a red line issue for Democrats in funding battles ahead?
Well, look, I just want to say from my own standpoint, and I had a lot of meetings back home in New Jersey this past weekend. I mean, people feel fear for their safety right now. And when I see a facility like Delaney Hall, I went out there a couple weeks ago. Yeah. I mean, it is absolutely atrocious, the conditions that are being there, and the fact that companies like Geo Group are literally profiting off of that human misery and getting billion-dollar contracts. That's not something that's that is the best use of our taxpayer dollars. I don't want that facility in New Jersey. I want to shut down, and I want those types of facilities shut down, so I will continue to fight for them.
Well, there you have it, folks. That's Pablo Manríquez reporting from the Washington, DC Bureau of the MeidasTouch Network. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe, and let's get to 6 million subscribers.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.